there. This is Dr. Pam Perry, and we are here for another Pam's Perry Picks. And this has to do with some books. So I'm a big reader. Love reading. Oh my God, I probably have about 5,000 marketing, PR, and branding books, right? Uh, and that's not from school. That's from what I buy, from the Kindle books as well as the physical books. Thank God for Kindle. So today we have an author, Dr. Winifred Bragg, that talks about something that I talk about a lot, which really is in my Ready, Set, Go Speak program, how to get ready. And I always say the first part of getting ready to get on stages or to get in the media and really getting clients, is to really feel comfortable in your skin, really about mindset, really about how you feel about your self-esteem and your self-worth, about really articulating who you are to someone who asks, what do you do? So in this particular podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can brag. We're talking about the brag factor, play on her last name, Bragg, but how you can brag about yourself so that it doesn't seem obnoxious or like an egomaniac, but from the standpoint where you're just really showcasing your expertise. And that's really what you want. Anyone who's been doing something for 10 years or more, they're an expert. They're a subject matter expert. And subject matter experts should be called upon for advice. They should be hired for consultation, uh, get business for their company, because they are an expert in what they do. But a lot of times, people do not like to talk about themselves from the standpoint because they feel like they're bragging. So I'm going to bring up our guest, Dr. Winifred Bragg. There you are. Hey there.
Hi, Pam. How are you?
Good. So is that one of the things why you wrote the book, the book, and why you have the brag factor, about people not really feeling like they should be bragging or talking about themselves? So when someone says, what do you do? People kind of shriek back and shirk back like, I just do only, or but, that type of thing. So tell us about where the book started.
The book started because so many times I see people who are experts and very competent and very accomplished people, as you said, who have more than 10 years experience. But when you ask them how they can help you or tell me about yourself, they almost get like a porcupine, like they want to run away. And I see so many people, especially women, who feel like, well, I don't want to brag. That sounds bragging. And I ask them, how many times does your boss stop by the desk and say, hey, can I give you a raise today? If you don't brag or learn to own and create your value, no one else is going to do that for you. And in my own journey, in my own life, I had to learn that I had to speak up for myself, or I was not going to be able to accomplish my personal goals. And I wrote the book so that other people can learn how to brag the proper way.
So your name has two G's in it. And tell us what that last G, when you say bragging, right? Like your name is Bragg, but you have that extra G. Tell us what that you feel like that extra G stands for.
I think that extra G takes away the problem that people are having with brag, because that extra G stands for gratitude. Yeah. And what we know is people who express gratitude are more successful and healthier. We also know, Pam, that people who show gratitude, fear and anger cannot occupy the same space as gratitude. And so that's why the brag factor, the second G, is the most important letter, is gratitude.
So you wrote 3 books in the series. Explain to us the sequence of the books, and hold one of the books up so we can see that.
Okay, the first one in the series was called Dreams Without Goals Are Nightmares. Because how often do we have a dream to do something, but you didn't have a goal? If it's just a dream and you don't reduce it to a goal, it would be a nightmare, meaning that you would look on the television and see that someone else did something you were dreaming about because it wasn't your goal. You didn't visualize it. You didn't internalize it, like mindset. You didn't take it to the next step and execute it. So it's dreams without goals are nightmares. And it talks about the importance of how we have to write down our goals. Other parts of our lives, we plan. We meet with our financial planner. We plan. We plan our estate. When we're cooking, having a big party, a wedding, we plan. But we need to plan our goals. And so this is what the first book talks about. The second book is a playoff on what this third one is. The second one is also called How to Create Your Bragg Book for a Competitive Job Market. I didn't have a copy of it with me today because I gave it to a bunch of students who came by my office today. It's the student version to the one that
Okay.
we're talking about tonight, because I think learning to brag needs to start earlier. And if we incorporate that early in life, then we won't become a mature lady, a mature man, and saying, I don't know how to brag. So I have a college version for college students so that they can learn then to take ownership. When you take ownership at a young age, then it becomes a natural for you. You get better internships, better co-op experiences, and it can help you then to be more competitive in the job market. And I say create a brag book, especially when you're in college. You
Yeah.
want to have a portfolio where you're putting down your accolades and you say, oh, I forgot that I had done that. Well, when you keep it in a brag book, then you have that. And it's going to help your confidence, because more you read about yourself, you're like, guess what? I ain't that bad, am I?
I think a lot of people don't know what is really quote unquote brag worthy. So, do I say I won a contest, a Toastmaster speaking contest? Do I say I won, uh, you know, a participation award? What are some of the things when someone looks at their portfolio? What should they put in and what should they leave out?
Well, we have milestones and we have to take baby steps depending upon where we are. If we're in college, some things that we would put in now, we wouldn't have put in at that point. But we have to put in achievements we're having. If you're a college student, you put in your good transcript, any type of award you won in college. That would be worthy. A scholarship, volunteer work. A lot of times people overlook volunteer work, but
Mhm.
volunteer work shows character. And who wouldn't want to hire someone that was doing fundraising
Right.
for the homeless, fundraising for anyone? That is a good attribute to have. And also, when you're volunteering, it shows that you went beyond the call of duty. And what did I say? It shows gratitude, that you are a grateful person. And usually, people that volunteer are people that have integrity. And you would be surprised the caliber of people that you meet at volunteer group, presidents of companies, CEOs, and very powerful entrepreneurs are people who value what they give back to the community. So those are some things. But as we grow older, any type of accomplishment that you have at your job, maybe you employee of the month, maybe you reduced employee turnover, maybe you saved the company some money, maybe your sales went up in a certain quarter. Any of those type of awards or accomplishments are brag worthy and should be kept either in an Outlook or some type of folder on your computer, kept in a portfolio. Sometimes you can keep it on your iPhone and keep all that stuff, but put it down, because when it comes down time to really do your bragging on yourself, you're going to scratch your head and say, what have I done? But you want to be organized. And when you see it and when you go over it, it's going to empower you to say, I've done this, I've done that. Pam, why am I not worthy to be on your show tonight?
Hmm. Right. So I always tell people they should keep a file or a folder. And
Right,
it's especially important when, say, someone gives you an award. Okay, they give you a physical award, but at least in a journal of some sort, say what that award was, because you'll take the award, you'll set it out, it'll be in the living room for a while, and then after so long, you take and you put it aside, in the attic, right?
right,
And
right.
so you forgot that you got that award. I remember one time when I won the Spirit of Detroit award, and that was
Mm,
years ago. And I forgot it because at a certain point in time, you take it and you move things around and you just put it in a like a little collection. And then someone said, "Didn't you win a Spirit of Detroit award?" I see, I did. It says that's not anywhere on your LinkedIn profile. I was like, I forgot I got it. So I can see why people sometimes need to write down their accomplishments, take a picture of them, like you said, keep them in their phone, because at a certain point in time, those will be empowering for themselves. And then also too, one of the main things is that when people want you to list on a CV all the different things, whether it's articles or media that you've been in, what television shows, what podcasts you've done. You have all this information there. So when someone says create a CV, you don't have to like freak out about it because it's all in one part. You just have to organize it and type it out. So I want to ask you a question really quick about
Okay.
what's the difference between professionally bragging and then coming across as arrogant or annoying. But before you answer that, I know someone, I'm not going to say names, but they are the person that is the consummate bragger on themselves where it is annoying. And when I say it's annoying, it's kind of like someone, it's like you're looking at them like, really? Like, did we even ask about that? And it's almost like inappropriate ways of just saying things that they've accomplished when it's inappropriate to say.
Right.
So for me, it comes across like they're so insecure, they have to always just reassure the person who they're talking to that I'm okay and I'm worthy. And it's like, no one has said you weren't. So anyway, that's my thing. I have this person in my head and it's like he's just always doing that. It's like, dude, relax. So anyway, what's your opinion?
Well, first of all, when you said dude, I figure that's a gentleman. We do
Mhm.
know that statistics say that we as women are least likely to brag on ourselves. If there's a job that says list 10 qualifications and a woman has 9 of them, she will say, oh my God, I can't apply. I don't have everything they want. Who has everything? But a man typically, if they have one qualification of the 10, will apply. You understand the difference? So the brag factor and keeping that brag book is important for everyone, but especially for women because we tend to downplay our accomplishment. And so brag worthy is something if some that person who you're talking about, dude, is probably really insecure, the reason he has to keep on saying that. So you have to put it in the right place. And one of the things you can do with professional bragging, people go to Facebook and say, this is my friend. When you create a 30-second brag is what I talk about. People call it your unique sales position, something that you're going to be able to say about yourself. So you practice and you will learn. Was that a turn off when I said that? Your friends should tell you. So just like you plan anything else, when you're going to a networking event, you should have a bank of little 30-second brags that are appropriate for different circumstances based upon your skill set. And so
Uh,
that's why it'll be professional bragging because it's going to fit. It's just like you do media and things like that. So you have an author. And if you were there, you're Pam Perry and you help authors create their dream by giving them media exposure and showing them different things from a PR standpoint. You see, that's going to just fit. It's not bragging. I always tell people, first of all, bragging needs to come with a result in mind. It needs to be tied to a result and with a vision. You need to have a vision. If I'm bragging about this, what is my goal? Why am I on your nerves? But when you're doing professional bragging, it's done because you have a goal in mind, a vision. The best example I can tell you is in 1954, there was a guy who was a medical student named Roger Bannister, and he wanted to break the 4-minute mile running. All the people told him, no way you can do this. This would be dangerous from a health standpoint. Well, what they say he did, not only did he practice his running for this 4 miles, he also did his mindset that you talked about, Pam. He relentlessly visualized seeing himself crossing that finish line. And they said that was as valuable as his running. So when you're bragging, have a goal in mind and have your mind trained that this is why I'm doing it. Because when you can tie it to a result, it's going to be easier because you help people do this, that, and the other when you give your qualifications. And so you're focused on service. And so when you're doing it from service, that's going to make it more with that gratitude that we talked about.
and also too, it's what you said about when it's appropriate. So no one wants to be like out of sorts of saying something that is like we weren't even talking about that. It's like going into a party and jumping in a conversation. It's like we weren't even talking about that. So
That's
just
right.
knowing when to do certain things, and the same thing with social media as well. sometimes people are over posting about how great I am, how great I am, how great I am. And social media has really just, from a standpoint of mental health, has really, for a lot of youth, well, I guess older people too, but really for a lot of youth, has really caused a lot of mental issues because people are doing more comparison. Before, when I was younger, I didn't know what anybody was doing, whether they were in high school or college, right? Because social media wasn't around, it was not as
Right.
prevalent as it was. But now you can just check the score of everybody by what they're posting, knowing that people only are posting the highlights, but still it does make a lot for people to feel insecure about themselves. So how do you feel, from a mental health standpoint, how social media has been affecting people in terms of this over, I don't say over bragging, but just oversharing a lot of their highlight reels, and how you think maybe that's affecting people in terms of their mental health?
Well, as you said, you want to be appropriate, and you can tell when it's just bragging obnoxiously, when it's inappropriate. And to post about yourself every day is just inappropriate. And it's the comparison, as you say, people are doing. And people get on there, and what you really don't know, is it a fact? See, bragging needs to be fact based. A
Right.
lot of times when we're on the people on social media saying, people, someone going to Europe today, tomorrow they're in England, and last week they were in Hawaii. And then you just ask them, where are you working? You understand? Some
Right.
things don't add up, but it does affect some people mentally because they compare themselves to each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you need your own brag factor. And
Mm.
the brag factor of yourself is, what are your unique qualifications? What makes you different than somebody else? And don't worry about anybody else, because as long as you go through life comparing yourself to other people, you're going to always have some sense of insecurity, low self esteem, and feel as though you're not moving forward. So, the first thing, this is about you. And you need to know that I am good enough. And in the morning, get up and do a little exercise. Say to yourself, I am powerful. I am valuable. I am skillful. And put your attributes and say them every morning, 5 or 10 things about yourself to empower yourself. So when you get on social media and see what these other people, that helps your
Mhm.
security.
Yeah. There's a speaking of affirmations, there was a young lady that I just found out about. Her name is Tony Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and she has this thing called the worth ethic. Not work ethic, but worth
The
ethic.
work
And it
ethic.
talks about her self-worth, and she's from Detroit. I found out about it from a conference I went to for Alicia Houston gave. And at the beginning of the conference, she played some of Tony Jones's music, and it was affirmation set to music, almost like spoken word. And she did
Mm-hmm.
another one called Energy Budget. But it is something that, she was a life coach, and she realized that people needed the affirmations more than ever, not just since the pandemic, but just really before. People were feeling so insecure about themselves that they had to build them. She did the affirmations to build themselves up, to make them feel more positive about themselves, so they can do a elevator pitch and feel good about it, or they can really promote something that they're doing and feel good about it without feeling bad, or is it too much or whatever. So when I'm going to ask you in terms of the difference between someone saying their elevator pitch or their self promotion, how it's usually like 30 seconds or it could be a minute or so. How do you get people to really deliver one that's really powerful, that they can stand in their power and deliver it?
Well, first of all, I ask people to practice it in the mirror, then use your phone again. I'm not advertising for the phone, but use the phone again, practice it, see how it sounds. Practice
Okay.
it with people who are close to you that would be sincere and tell you how it does. And then think about, what are your skills? What are the unique qualities that you have? Where have you traveled? I live in Virginia Beach, so it's a military town. So people have exposures here who have traveled to a lot of countries and continents that others haven't experienced. And that is some unique, because sometimes people are like, well, what can I brag about? And so that's what I think, you can do things like that. But looking in that mirror, and I think, do some self love. Self love is very important for mental health. And
Mhm.
say, Winifred Bragg, You're on Pam Perry's show tonight, and you can be as good as any other guest she's ever had. Maybe better. Tell yourself that. Visualize that. Before I came here, I visualized talking with you and what you may ask me and got myself ready. And that's what people need to do.
Mhm.
Everyone has a little bit of practice, but people don't know what I tell them when you are doing your 30-second brag. Nobody knew what you were going to say anyway. So how could you mess up?
That's true.
Get
That is
so
so
oh,
true.
I messed up. I should have said that. I didn't know what you were gonna say. Your face is the thing. Get your face in joy, get it excited, and then that does it. You see, when I went to medical school, I had a problem, Pam, that I would palpate, touch a person's stomach, and if I felt a little bump, my face would be. I was so horrified the person had cancer of the stomach or whatever, and the teacher had to tell me, before you even told the patient what was wrong, you don't know. You haven't had a diagnostic study. They read your face. You just scared that person to death. And all it was fat. You
Mhm.
were palpating fat, but you thought it was a mass and you look so bad. Same thing with your elevator pitch. It starts with your face, and your smile can take you a long ways if you're energetic about it. And if you blunder, just keep smiling because the person didn't know what you were going to say anyway.
That's
But
true.
the main thing is think about servicing somebody else. What's the
Mhm.
service you bring? And if you bring that service to them, think about the pain that you're solving for somebody else. And when you do that, a 30-second brag, a sales pitch, whatever you want to call it, is easy because you want people to know about something that can help them.
Right. And that's the main thing. Take the focus off of you and put it on someone else. It's like, how can I help them? And the
Right.
body language does really make a big difference. I
Right.
remember sometimes when they said, if you're giving a speech from the stage and you're looking into the audience, and go and look for the most friendliest face that you can find, right? Because it's like it will
Right.
help your face feel more energetic. So if you're looking at someone that's really got their arms crossed and looking bored, it's going to affect how you're going to deliver that speech. So that is so, so important. Body language is so important on
Right.
both ends, looking for the good body language and then also the body language that you're going to give out as well.
That's right.
So your books, you have the first one, is it more like a journal or is that a narrative? The one about the goals and the dreams and the nightmares.
Well, it's kind of a combination. It tells inspirational stories. It tells things of some failures that I have experienced in my life, but how I grew from them and what I learned and what helped me to build successful businesses as a result of it. It tells about what millionaires and billionaires do. Not that we're focusing on the money, but they have succeeded and some of the routines that they do in the morning. And then it helps you, gives you assessment for what you need to write around with your goals. And it has really four important questions. You know, everyone's familiar with the SMART, SMART thing, dealing with goals. But in my first book, I talk about goals equals W to the fourth power. If you can really ask four questions, you can really improve yourself personally or professionally by asking yourself, what do you really want? And why do you really want it? Get really centered on the why. Then you got to say when, put a timeline to it. Third question is, what's holding you back? And that's
Mm,
where the work is. What's holding you back? Why every
mhm,
time you get here, you stumble? And that's where we need to do the work and then get to the strategy. See, a lot of times in this book talks about we want to think about the how. And when we put the how before the why, we'll get afraid because then we don't know how. You can stumble sometimes into the how if you really are convicted on the why you want to do it. First
mhm,
book. Second book, as I said, is a student version to the third book of How to Create Your Brag book. And it's going to tell you how to create your 30-second brag, how to define your brag factor, how to brag, and strategies for that. So the second book in that series really is a student version of what the third book is for professionals on how to create your brag book for a competitive job market.
mhm. That is so true. And so many times people will ask you in a job interview, what have you done? Uh, what is the last thing that you're proud of? I mean, there's all kind of things. And so having that in a book form is really, really important. Thank you so much for writing that because there's another person, I think her name is Sonia Aileen, and she wrote a book, and it was called "I Kick Ass at Work." And the book is really like a journal
Mm-hmm.
that a millennial would take to work, and they would just keep it at their desk, and then when there's things that they do that are really really good, or their team member has said that they did a good job on, they write it. So she did it from the standpoint of when it's time for their annual review, right? They have an annual review, and then there's an opportunity for them to get a promotion. They
Mm-hmm.
can go through this book, I Kick Ass at Work, and it's little prompts and things like that. And they can then remember and be prepared for their annual review, performance review, because they
Right.
can say, I've done this, this, and this, and they get a raise. And I told her, I said, what, I've been in business now, a couple of decades. So I haven't been in the work world in a long time. I said, I wish I would have had something like that in my 20s, in my
Right.
30s. That would have made such a big difference,
Right.
to really write it down. Sometimes we write down things at work, or people write down things work, and they call it CYA, right? This just like just to cover their ass. But you
Right.
should write down things that are achievements, accomplishments, and that really is the main thing of what you're talking about when you talk about the brag factor. So I think
Right.
more people should really embrace that for sure, and especially women.
Mm.
Women do tend to be the person that is less likely to speak up and mention how great they are, whereas men will just be more aggressive with it. So I do think that it's really really important for women to say that. And so any field, say, oh, it's a male dominated field. Well, it's like most of the careers are, quote unquote, whether it's automotive or it's technology, uh even in production and movies and media, it's male dominated. So women have to learn how to stand out and speak up. And so I really appreciate you writing that book there. So right now we're kind of like winding down. Is there any other thing that you want to share before we kind of close down?
What I really want to share with people, that when they do the Bragg book, they want to keep it. And if they're going to important performance review or interview, they can have it in a portfolio form, that they can have some of those achievements in the book. And just having that prompt with them will make them feel secure. And some people may want you to leave it behind, to leave behind. So have it ready to leave behind if they ask. But even if they don't, you would have gone through those things and rehearsed it in your mind, and like reading a book of your life, and that reduces your life to a nice portfolio that then you should be able to brag with empowerment, and knowing that when you do this, you're going to get confidence. And it's all about confidence and how you present yourself. And if you
Mhm.
do that, I can guarantee you that you can have a successful life. And these are the tools that have helped me to build a successful medical practice and speaking business. And this is why I wanted to give this to other people, so that they can get their brag factor and learn this system and succeed.
And people can get the book on Amazon.
Yes.
They can get all the books. They can get a paperback version. They can get a Kindle version as well, and actually get these right here. We're on Amazon Live right now, so they can click the link right there in the stream. Or if you're watching from LinkedIn or YouTube, the Amazon Live link is there as well, so you can go over to the Amazon Live and click it there. So thank you so much, Dr. Bragg. Appropriately named the book "The Bragg Factor," right? With your whole entire theme of that. I love the branding on that, and it is really good. It's like it's for business professionals and those, because it's very competitive. So you have to know what's going to make you stand out. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Pam, for having me.
All right, thank you.